Hi, I'm Andy, and this is my lesson on some mathematical shortcuts in Java. In this lesson, I'll introduce you to three shortcuts we can use when adding, subtracting, or multiplying. And I'll show you how to use the increment and decrement operators to increase or decrease variables by 1. Let's get started. We'll start by initializing an integer variable called num. Then we'll put this line of code. Let's figure out what happens here. Remember how this works. Whenever you see an assignment operator, an equal sign, you evaluate the expression on the right first. When we do, we get the value 7. This value then gets stored in the variable on the left, num. So num should have the value of 7 at this point. To check, we simply need to print out num. As you can see, we were right. Essentially, lines of code like this can be used to increase or decrease the value stored in a variable. In this case, we increased num's value by 3. Since increasing a variable by some amount occurs so frequently in Java programs, the Java developers have given us a shortcut for it, using plus equals, like this. These two statements are essentially equivalent. They both increase num by 3. Subtraction and multiplication work exactly the same way. For example, look at this code and try to predict the output. Increasing or decreasing a variable by 1 is probably the most common change we can make to a variable. As you just learned, these two lines of code would do just that. But since these particular operations are so common, the Java developers have given us an even easier shortcut for them. These shortcuts are called the increment and decrement operators. These shortcuts are certainly not necessary, but if you look at other programmers' code, you'll see them all over the place. They reduce the typing we have to do while not hurting the readability of our code at all. Before we go, here's a little challenge for you. Look at this code and try to predict its output. To help us out, here's a running tally showing how num's value is changing in memory. So that's why we got 11 when we printed out the value of num. And that wraps up this lesson on some Java shortcuts for basic mathematical operations. I'm Andy. Thanks for watching and coding with me today.